Hello everyone, this is Philosophy 72, the last week, this short summer semester. This is week 6, and we are doing a difficult book, right? I mean, a difficult essay, it's not a whole book, by Heidegger, and the title is The Origin of the Work of Art. Let's see what we have done so far, right? Remember, we started with Descartes, fundamentally, right? I mean, we saw the painting by René Magritte. This is not a pipe. Then we got into Descartes. Again, the theme of the class is the self, the other, the whole. So we did Descartes, the centrality of the self, the I think. Then we got to Leibniz, discourse on metaphysics, and we saw the question of contingency, the question of necessity, but also especially the notion of an individual substance. And then we did Spinoza, where we started this kind of a deconstruction of the idea of the self, right? Even more so with Nietzsche. So with Spinoza and Nietzsche, the body takes central stage, right? And then with Kierkegaard, we saw again the self as this synthesis, right? A combination, a synthesis of the finite and the infinite, of necessity and possibility, and the self is fundamentally divided, right? Split within itself. And today we do Heidegger, right? I mean, again, and this is, like I say, difficult. The journal entry suggestion is, and you will find this expression, which is in a sentence on page 23 of the essay, the world walls, right? What does that mean? You know, it's a strange thing. The world and then the world walls, right? I mean, in another essay, Heidegger says that the things, okay? So, what does that mean? As you read the essay, although it's difficult, but focus on the highlighted sections. I will, try to clarify some passages, moments today. If you need to know more, then contact me and I can send you the longer videos that I did last semester on Heidegger, because we did that in 2 weeks, but this is a short semester. But if you want, I can send you those videos as well. Okay, so then the journal entry suggestion again is what are some of the main points in Heidegger's essay, so that's relatively free. As you read the essay, see if you detect important points, things that are important to you, and speak about them. So what strikes you most? Mention at least 3 main concepts, issues. Okay, for example, the question of truth, the question of art itself, the question of technique, right? So the question of or the example of the wonderful illustration of the peasant shoes, the painting of the peasant shoes by Van Gogh, right? You can relate also to the painting we saw at the beginning of this semester by Magritte on the pipe. Okay, I'll say more about that, but also remember, this is very important, that in addition to this last journal entry, right, for week 6, and I see that many of you have done all journal entries. If you have not done that, make sure that you do all the journal entries, right? And then also make sure that you write the reflective essay, the final reflective essay. You will find the place to upload that on Blackboard, and this is a relatively free assignment that allows you also to say what you think about this semester, still in emergency mode because of the pandemic, right? But in any case, we have done important and difficult readings in philosophy. So say what you have learned in this class by touching on the various philosophers' problems, right? You don't have to speak about all the philosophers, but maybe you can, but some of them, the problems, for example, the problem of the self and the relationship between the self and the other, or the self, the other, and the world, that we are going to be speaking about that today as well. So I ask, is there anything that you find particularly striking? Anything that you agree or disagree with? So you can say, really one page, let's say 2 pages, right? You give a sense of your experience this semester, okay? So everything must be in by Monday, August 3rd, okay? Both the final um, the last journal entry for week 6 and the final essay, okay? Monday, because then I had to grade the class. I have very little time, okay? So let's see this work on art. I told you already that the important expression, the word walls, comes on page 23. But just to touch on some of the points, even the outset of the essay, when you go to page precisely 1, and that's how Heidegger starts. Origin, first of all, the origin of the work of art. Origin means here that from where and through which a thing is what it is and how it is. Difficult language, and of course, especially more difficult when we can't do this in a face-to-face situation, right? But in any case, you should think about what we have seen this semester in terms of essence, for example. We spoke about essence with Descartes at the beginning of the semester, with Leibniz, with Spinoza, the whatness of something, what something is. Then we also saw thisness with Leibniz, right? The idea, what makes this thing. For example, what makes this book rather than another book. Okay, so that's the, and so right, that's origin, right, where right means here that from where, right, the source, and through which a thing is what it is and how it is. Okay, think about that. So the nature, then you find in the same the next sentence the word nature. It's nature, right? The origin of something is the source of its nature. So the question is, what is the origin of art? And then he, as you read, you see that he makes this distinction on the one hand, and then he speaks about the similarity between the thing, right, and between work and the work of art, the thing and precisely the artwork. Okay, what is think about the example that you will find, the illustration that Heidegger gives of, again, the painting by Van Gogh of the peasant's shoes. Okay, I use this because, again, I had to be sketchy and quick. But what is the difference between, a pair of shoes, of a peasant's shoes, the peasants use in the field to work, and the shoes on the painting of the peasant's shoes, just like the pipe, right? The pipe that people smoke, right? The smoking pipe, and the pipe in the painting by Magritte that we saw at the beginning, right? Of what is the difference? Well, to be quick and short, Heidegger will say that the shoes that we use, the peasant shoes, the peasants use, then they disappear in usefulness. Precisely, there is a process of wear and tear. At one point, you had to buy a new pair of shoes. This is just an object, and it is a thing, just like the work of art is also an object and a thing, but it is of a different kind, right? The shoes in the painting, the peasant shoes in the painting by Van Gogh, they do not disappear in usefulness, in use, in consumption. Okay, so this is one way, a simple, simplistic way of understanding the difference and therefore what art is. But then he goes into the question of the work, right? The artist, he says on the same page 1, and this is interesting, the artist is the origin of the work, the self, the artist, the subject, the work is the origin of the artist. Okay, so it's like this coming together of two different things. One is the origin of the other. There is this reciprocal type of relationship, which in a sense may recall also what we saw in Kierkegaard's description of the reflective nature of the relationship of the self to itself as the self is making itself, right? The dynamic process, okay? So he goes on, artist and work are each in themselves and in their reciprocal relation, right? On account of a third thing which is prior to both, on account, that is, of that from which both artist and artwork take their names on account of art. Okay, so I mean, probably here you see, and this may be a pointer for you to keep in mind as you read the essay, there is art to begin with, right? That's the foundation, the ground, and it is on account of art, of the existence of art, right? Of let me use the word that we used at the beginning of this class, the ontological status, if you will, of art, metaphysical, ontological, right, that comes before, right? Then you have, on account of that, you have both the artist and you have the work of art. The artist is the origin of the work of art. The work of art is the origin of the artist, but both of them are based on, are grounded in art. Okay, so I hope that this gives you a sense. Sorry, in art is then ultimately the same as basically reality, but it is a special kind of reality. You will find the word phusis, Phusis, which is usually what we translate, and Heidegger says that with nature, but Heidegger says phusis is the self arising, that which arises by itself. Think about nature, and we saw this in Spinoza in a sense. Nature is, right, I mean, doesn't, nature has its own potency, whereby things happen, things grow, right? It is arising by itself, emerging out of itself, producing itself, okay? So it is then this relationship that Heidegger says is ontological, art, nature, in this sense, the self arising, and therefore what reveals, the word to reveal is important in Heidegger. That's the truth. When you find the word truth over and over again, and you had the Greek, it's there, so you will find it. Let me show at least one point where he says this word, aletheia. You find the word aletheia, which is the Greek word for truth, okay? And this is what this is what reveals itself, right? For Heidegger, truth is what comes out of concealment. Okay, so to speak, right? I mean that's the idea again in a simplistic way. Things are concealed, and then they come out of concealment. Things are hidden. They come out of this hiding place into visibility, into manifestation, right? That is the truth as aletheia, as that which reveals itself, okay? I will find one of the places where he says that. But in any case, before moving on, I want to show you where, on page 14, right, there is an important moment when he gets into the painting by Van Gogh, right? I read a few lines highlighted for you. From Van Gogh's painting, we cannot even tell where these shoes are, right? The shoes that we are talking about, the peasant shoes. You can Google, right, the image of the painting by Van Gogh of the peasant shoes, so you get an idea of what he's speaking about. There is nothing surrounding this pair of peasant shoes to which and within which they could belong. Only an undefined space. Okay, so there is no setting, no context around it. Okay, in a sense, just like the pipe. The pipe had the statement underneath, but a pair, he says, a pair of peasant shoes and nothing more. And yet, okay, so this and yet is important. That's the way he writes. It's kind of difficult. He writes in circle very often and so on. And yet, okay, and yet, and then he goes to the next paragraph and says, from out of the dark opening of the well worn insides of the shoes, the toil of the workers tread stares forth. Okay, although there is no context, no situation around, and so on and so forth, and yet there is, art, the work of art, Van Gogh's painting of the shoes. This work of art is, of course, able to reveal much more than, perhaps what the thing that we use and consume, the shoes, in their usefulness can do. Okay, so art has this power of revealing, right? Art is then close to the truth, right? So that's the connection that he's making, the importance of art, okay? So he says a few lines below, this is page 14, the shoes vibrate, right? This vibration with the silent call of the earth. Okay, then he goes into this very interesting, you will see, kind of a play between the earth and the world, right? I mean, what is the relation? Think about that. The earth, right, is there to begin with, the planet, right? The earth, which is, he says, not simply the planet, but then on top of it, if you will, we humans make a world. The world is human-made, right? I mean, in all its possible, ways, in all possible ways of understanding it. Think about, I don't know, architecture, engineering, but also the establishing of governments, countries, literature, and so on and so forth, right? It's a human-made thing. Okay, that's important, and art plays a very important role in this, just like work in general, right? Because think about also, I leave that to you to think about the relationship between work. For example, the work that we do when we work for a wage, right? For our livelihood, right, to then pay rent, buy food, and so on and so forth, work, and then creative work, the work of art, right? They are both forms of labor, of work, of this expenditure of human activity, human energy, right? Physical, mental, emotional. So, but what is the difference? Okay, so in any case, earth and world. Okay, you can see earth here, and then on top of it the world. Okay, just to make something, like a little more visible, more understandable. But in any case, he speaks about these things, and then one place in which you find the word aletheia that I mentioned is on page 16, right? What is happening here? What is at work in the work? The disclosure. The disclosure is what I was speaking about before when I said that there is this revealing, right? Things are revealed, the things come out of concealment into unconcealment. There is a disclosure. To disclose something means that something comes out of the closed, of the hiding place into the open. And you see that he also speaks a lot about the open. Okay, so you can make some connections here, but on page I have to start wrapping up. Page 19, there is a new section starting the work and truth. You had the sentence art is real in the artwork, of course, but then let me go. Okay, on page 21 you find the word fuses in Greek, which is what I told you before. It's what we translate as nature, but it is that which arises by itself, and therefore it's very close to the disclosure that we were talking about, right? That which comes out of a concealment arises by itself. So then he says something about the earth, and then on page 23, okay, the sentence that I said, say something about this expression, world worlds. Okay, world is not a mere collection of the things countable and uncountable, known and unknown, that are present at hand. Neither is world a merely imaginary framework added by our representation to the sum of the things that are present. Worlds, meaning world creates, produces itself. So world is not simply a collection of things, right? But there is this capacity, right? Artistic and ontological, right? Remember, ontology is the study of that which is. Capacity of formation, of production, of unfolding. Okay, so then you find the open toward the word the open repeated a few times at the end of page 23. Again, I hope that I gave you a list, a few pointers, a few ideas. There is so much more to say, but read the highlighted sections. Then on page 33 there is another interesting section called truth and art. Okay, so look at that as well. He goes back to the question of the origin and the question of techne, from which technology, but techne, Heidegger says, in the past, in ancient times, in Greece, in ancient Greece, art, techne and art were the same, whereas today technology is one thing, art is a completely different thing. Okay, so it is there on page 35 that he speaks a lot about techne as a bringing forth, to bring forth. Okay, so again, out of the hiding place, if you will, into full view, into unconcealment, into disclosure, this bringing forth, which is a making, the making that I was speaking about before, the activity, the working activity, labor activity, making of things, whether these things are the shoes that we use or the work of art, the painting, and so on and so forth, right? There is this making, and here he also speaks about aletheia. Again, you see the word in Greek, it's in the Greek alphabet, but you will find it there, and it is this aletheia, which is the unconcealment of beings. Okay, so I hope that you get some ideas, okay, and from what I said, write something about, your view, your take on this difficult essay, but, fundamentally think about what is the difference between things and works of art, between, again, the pipe that people smoke and the painting by Magritte of the pipe. This is not a pipe. Between the shoes that people wear, the peasants wear, and the peasants' shoes painted by Van Gogh. And generally speaking, what is this difference, this, transfiguration, right? Transformation that happens in art. We all have some understanding, some way of relating to art. So think about this, okay? And write, your journal entry. And then again, I repeat, make sure you do write the final reflective essay about your experience with the class, okay? Again, contact me Let me know if you have questions, and I hope you enjoy the semester. Okay, stay safe.